Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions. I am your host, Ryan Hartley. This channel exists to inspire and encourage your heart-centered leadership. Each week, I share interviews with some of the greatest heart-centered leaders in the world. I hope our time spent together helps you leave a heartprint where those around you are left better than yesterday. Please visit abty.co.uk if you would like us in your corner. These interview sessions are brought to you by Matt Media Online Marketing, an independent agency who specialise in content marketing, helping business owners get their message seen by the right audience. If you want to get your business seen through the power of social media, head to mattmedia.online. On episode 225, I'm joined by high-stakes leadership mentor, Sally Henderson. Sally creates high-performance senior teams and leaders that excel within the world's biggest brands and world-class creative agencies. Her high-impact motivational talks are an interactive blend of getting people together to have an enjoyable time and preparing them with practical and bespoke toolkit that equips them with high-impact leadership tools and techniques that can be put to immediate effect. It's a great conversation. It's episode 225 with Sally Henderson. Sally, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you?
Oh, Ryan, it's great to be here. Very good, and looking forward to our call.
I doing my research. I'm looking on your website, and in bold letters at the very top of the page, it says, "I'm a straight-talking Yorkshire woman." Like, of all of the things that you can put at the top of your website, it's like, "I'm a straight-talking Yorkshire woman." What does that mean?
What it says, Ryan. No, I think I'm very proud of my northern roots. I love coming from Yorkshire. I think the values that people hold, particularly in the north, I've been a southerner for a long time now, so I do sit both sides of the fence. But I just think that honesty, that integrity, call a spade a spade, treat people well, and don't bullshit, basically, to yourself or to others. And I think particularly in the world of leadership, and particularly in today's world, people really do want honesty. They don't always know how to handle it when they get it, but we're in a bit of a vacuum of honest conversations, I think. So the fact that I can bring that straight talking directness with care, I'm a very caring person. So it's not just because I can, or it's not just for a point, it's because this is what I see. This is in service of my clients. Because they're very senior, successful people, often they're not getting that absolute safe honesty back to them, and helping them navigate it through. But if people aren't direct and straight talking, I don't really think you can help very much.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure the exact words, but one of my mentors, Bob Berg, he says that honesty without compassion is, I think he used the word like savage or something like that. It was savage, and there is that both, isn't it? And another mentor of mine, John Gordon, he talks about how it's not tough love, it's love tough. And in caring for you, I earn the right to kick your ass and challenge you and call you higher.
Yeah, I mean, I've been described as challenging, caring, and candid.
Yeah,
so that is that blend. I'm extremely direct. I've had clients say, "Thank you for your brutal honesty," or another client said, "Thank you for your bruising feedback."
Yeah,
because it was what had to be said, but it's not always easy to hear. But I absolutely only ever come from a place of wanting to support and help. And in that, my role is to be fearless. So sometimes for me, it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes just take it where I know it needs to go. But it's not about me, it's about the client.
Yeah.
So I am fearless in telling my clients what I believe is going to truly help and support them to achieve two things: to be happy, because I think let's not underestimate the power of being goddamn happy, but also to be effective. And from my perspective, to be a successful senior leader, to be a high-performing senior team, you have got to have happiness alongside effectiveness together. And often what you will find is a company or a team or a person thinks they can't have both.
Yep. Made them mutually exclusive. Yeah.
You can have both, and both are as important. And I think the reason I was interested and excited to come on your podcast is because emotion is overlooked at work all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think at people's peril.
Hey, my friends, thank you for listening to the interview so far. We are 6 Yes, Always Better Than Yesterday has been in existence for 6 whole years. And as a thank you for being part of this community, I'm going to give you a special offer. We don't usually do special offers and discounts around here because we offer so much for free. But on this occasion, I want to offer you 6 sessions for the price of 3. I can help you connect with your heart set. I can help you bring more of your heart work to the world, and I can help you leave more of a heartprint on those around you. It's 6 sessions for the price of 3. You have until the 30th of June to claim this offer. And one final thank you for being here. We are 6. Here's to the next 6 years of Always Better Than Yesterday. We hope that you being part of our community leaves you better for those who need you. It's 6 sessions for the price of 3. You can claim this offer by DMing us at Always Better Than Yesterday UK on Instagram. Email us podcast@abty.co.uk. And here we go. Back to the interview. Thank you for being here, friends. Yeah, and one of the interesting things is when someone comes along and says, hey, this is what's possible, if they've built their life and their career on this belief that they are mutually exclusive, well, the very first thing is they're going to experience that cognitive dissonance that, well, that can't happen. Well, that can't be true because, well, what about the consequences of all the things that I've done in my life? You know, I'm really successful in my business, but maybe my kids don't like me. Maybe I didn't see the shows or maybe I wasn't present. Are you saying that I didn't have to sacrifice those things? So that's the interesting thing I find is that when I talk about some of the things I do, which is that first barrier isn't convincing them, it's actually having them come to terms with the fact that maybe things could have been different.
But they couldn't have been.
Right, because they weren't.
Past. And so there's no benefit in wishing for something to have been different because that's just agony for people. I always say to my clients, your way of working up until now has got you a lot of success. So in your mind, you would not want to let go of that because why would you? It works. But I have a saying around what I call towards and away from energy.
Yes.
And what you will find is most high performing senior people and teams are often driven by what I call away from energy, which is they have to get away from fears, worries, and doubts. Yeah. But to do that, I'll demonstrate it now. To do that, they have to look at them. Yeah. So you're not looking on a subconscious level at some degree on your worries, fears, and doubts. You're not going to be confident they're not getting you. And then look at what's happened to our connection. Yeah. It's still there, but it's broken to some point, but I can still make it work. Whereas, and it's very motivating to not let those goddamn monsters and fears and worries get you because, oh my God, if that's true, what then? You know, what that horrible teacher said to you at school, you'll never be successful, or what might have happened to your parents financially might happen to you, or the person who betrayed you terribly at a formative time in whatever way, emotionally or whatever. Everyone is possibly going to do that to you. So you've always got to keep one step ahead of them. Whatever it is that's driving you for very good reasons, it's incredibly motivating. But for as long as you're hanging out in what I call away from energy, you're never going to feel it. It's never going to be enough. And you're never going to acknowledge truly what you have. However, when you are in what I call towards energy, and you're driven by positive beliefs, positive emotions, where you want to go, not where you've come from. And you're adapting techniques and strategies that are fit for now, not fit for then. That's where the great opportunities sit. And that's where your emotions can become so much more aligned. But here's a really interesting thing. To achieve that, I say to my clients, don't regret, don't get angry and go, oh, imposter syndrome must not let you in. You know, oh, you're bad, or insecurity, you're bad, or anxiety, you're bad. I'm like, well, they're not, are they? They've helped you. They've come along for a reason, and you've held on to them for a reason. And they've given you a lot, albeit not comfortably. They still have worked in different ways. How about this? How about we say, thank you, and you send them off with love and kindness and acknowledge them and say, thank you for showing up, appreciate that. Don't you worry, I've got this. Hey friends, I just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce the new official sponsor of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, Matt Media Online Marketing. Matt Media have been involved in the production of over 100 interview sessions. I highly recommend their services. Matt Media Online Marketing are an independent agency who specialise in content marketing, helping business owners get their message seen by the right
audience. If you want your business seen through the power of social media, head to mapmedia.online. You can find the link in the show notes. And here we go, back to the interview.
Because then it takes the power, it takes the heat out of it. And if you're not fearful, if you're not like, we're trying to get away from them, they can't affect you anymore. But when I say to my clients, no, do it with love and kindness, then you will see a completely different outcome. Because normally we're taught you've got to fight them, you've got to overcome them, you know. It's like, oh God, it's a bit hard work.
Yeah, and you know, I love what you've just shared there, because what it reveals is the essence of leadership in the world first starts with ourselves. It first starts
100%.
with our understanding of how we operate, how we think, how we feel, how we present ourselves in the world. Before we even get to that job and are responsible for other people, it kind of starts with that. Is that something where you, as a leadership high stakes kind of mentor, coach, begin with most of your clients?
It depends. You know, all my work is bespoke, as well as having my own program. And for some clients, they are so ready to go there. And it almost like jumps out of the box. So I had a client where we got into deep emotional stuff on the first session, because that's actually what was holding them back.
Right.
Other clients, we don't ever go there because it's not relevant to their growth at this point that they're working with me. Other clients, you have to build up that know, like, trust.
Yeah, of course. And
help them to get ready for the deeper emotional kind of more experiential work that I do, or for a very, very technical term, the hippier stuff I sometimes do, which is actually, I know if I can reframe people's emotions and beliefs on a subconscious level and get them to release negative energy and release beliefs that are holding them back, that's going to achieve far more growth than if we had 6 practical sessions around leadership tools and techniques and approaches. So you've got to work out the triggers. Yeah. And what are the best levers to be pulling or pushing for your client at whatever stage, so that they are in the right place to make the most of that.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, you know, because you can tell with the long hair, and I am the hippie kind of, so I'm at the hippie spectrum of because I think, you know, I think Patrick Lencioni talked a couple of years ago in his book Motive. It's first having people understand why they want to be a leader to begin with, because for many people, their motivation to be a leader is of this world. It is rank, status, exactly, ego, position, finances, and the heart set work that I kind of talk about is about, why do you want to be a leader to begin with? Because if you're signing up for the style of leadership that wants rank, position, power, well, when you get that, or when you seek that, you think that then the whole industry of leadership is one of being served. Whereas I think the style of leadership we talk about here is one of serving others. And actually, we don't get that style of leadership because their motive isn't to serve others. It's to get to that place where they become served. So what's your kind of experience? You know, you've had some of the world's largest organizations, Coca-Cola, Shell, NatWest, they've all tapped on your, I was going to say door. They've called you and they've brought you in. What sort of things are they struggling with and challenged with that they wanted to journey around leadership development with?
Well, it's an interesting reframe there, Ryan, because I always say, look, I'm not here to fix the broken birds. I'm here to take your best and make them better. So I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding that leadership growth coaching is all about what's wrong. What are you struggling with? What's difficult? And yes, there's always that, because it'd be boring if there wasn't that, let's be honest. But I always approach it from, where are you going? Yeah. What do you want to get better at? Well, how do you want to be improving? How do you want to be having a better time, quite frankly, as a leader, especially around that high performance? Or what does that even mean? Yeah. And looking at what's possible versus what's not right. Because I think the power of language is very important around that, because if you're talking from the what's not working and what's broken, you'll attract people who are in that mindset of always reflecting on what's not working and trying to fix stuff. Whereas I want to attract the people who, yes, will absolutely growth mindset, embrace anything that needs to be developed, but in the service of growth, of where can we get to, not where have we been. Hence why I'm more of a mentor than a coach. I'm also quite directive in my style, which my clients love. But I think those large brands, they're no different, I think, to to other companies in a way that they're all humans. You know, the pressure on someone in a bank, for example, is in a way just as intense as a small business owner. It's just manifested in different ways with different tribal norms and ways of behaving. And there's a different kind of pressure, but it's just as important for that SME person to get their company to be successful as it is for someone running a bank. It's just different stakeholders, different stage. But for the actual individual, it's just as important to each of those people to get it right. But I think there's a common piece around connectivity in this world of work, given what we've gone through in the last few years. You know, striving for that balance of growth versus support. You know, where and a big thing around bloody ways of working. That's like, what does that even mean? How do we show up as good leaders? How do we ensure that our people are showing up as good leaders? But I think, again, big brand or small brand, it's about checking in. And every client, it's a saying from when I traveled in Thailand many years ago, same but different. You know, it will be, I come in where there's been a certain change thing happened in the business, a high stakes situation, which could be a new leadership team, a new CEO, pivot of the business, an M&A, succession planning, but something's happened that warrants a step change. So there's that commonality in all the work I do, rather than I'm not there to kind of do ongoing caretaking of people. I think that's important, don't get me wrong. I think that lovely maintenance is a really great muscle to have in a business. It's just not the one that I work in.
Yeah. I find that really fascinating because I think one of the things that I saw on your website, it kind of made me think, if I was stopped there, and it was one of the topics, says, don't bring your whole self to work. Don't bring your whole... I'm like, what? What? That's paradoxical. And I was like, it made me sort of think. So I've got my head around what I think you mean, but I'd love to know what you mean by don't bring your whole self to work.
Yeah, happy to go into that. I also don't love personal branding either. I like to be a bit controversial about some of these modern things. So don't bring your whole self to work is something I created, particularly in lockdown, to share. I've got a tool called PIPI, Personal Identity, Professional Identity. And I did sociology as an A-level. I was that British Gas advert for those of a certain, or was it BT of a certain age? But sociology was fascinating because it taught you about tribes and how different tribes have different codes of conduct and what is deviant and what is norm. And I say very openly, with utter truth and conviction, to me, it is a terribly sad day if I am ever just like I am with my closest friends and family, with my colleagues. Because they're different people with different agendas, different tribes, different norms. And surely there's a beauty and a richness for having stuff with my friends and family that is just for my friends and family, because they are my friends and family. Now, yes, you can get great friendships at work. Of course you can. But I don't believe a company is ever a family. I think it's a cop-out when people say, oh, it's just like a family. Well, it's not, because a family's not going to fire you based on an Excel spreadsheet. And I think there's a beauty in celebrating the difference between those two areas, so that you have your personal identity. So outside of work, I'm a mum, I'm a wife. You know, there's things I do outside of work that I can bring into work. But when I'm in work, working with my client, I'm not switched on as a parent. You know, that side of me is, you know, waiting till I'm back with my kids. But when I'm with my kids, I'm not treating them like a client, because it would be a bit weird if I did. So I believe you should absolutely be who you are, but there's different ways of engaging that are most suited to the tribes and relationships that you're currently working in. And there's something very healthy about knowing which ones you can switch off and which ones you switch on, so you're not always on all the time. Because that's where I think the world of work has got bloody confusing. Like, where does the role of an employer stop? Because it's your employer, it's not your best friend, and it's not your relative, it's your employer. And there's something healthy about going to friends for certain support and not expecting your employer to be everything to you, because they cannot be that. So for me, don't bring your whole self to work is, you know, there's some things that don't belong in the workplace. They just don't. Like, if my kids have annoyed me in the morning, should I really bring that in and spend the whole day at work going, oh, my bloody kids? Not really. it's not really relevant. I might share it with a bit of banter, but I don't bring all of that in. And when I'd have the visual of when I talk people through the tool, I say, look, you can cherry pick then which bits from which parts of your worlds you do want to swap over, but that's a conscious cherry picking. And then you have space in between to just breathe, because what we find in today's world of work with that always on mentality is that and post COVID and post people's homes becoming their offices. And I don't get me wrong, I'm all for flexibility, but what's been taken away is the step changing. So I come out of my room I've got a beautiful office at home, very lucky, but I come down the stairs and I get, Mum, I'm hungry. I'm like, oh, just come down the stairs, give me a minute. Whereas when I used to go to London much more frequently, I'd have that train journey just to decompress. Not a nice train journey, I might add. I don't miss it. But I think there's a whole opportunity for what are the rules and rituals and rhythms of engagement that allow us to step change between our different worlds and not be overwhelmed all the time.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I love these conversations where it's like someone shares an opinion slightly different to what I'm like, oh, like, how do I feel about that? Like, how do I wrap my head around that? And for me, I have used the word family at work in the past. And I wouldn't say I'm learning the error of my ways. I'm realizing the flaw in that perspective, but I also have a compassion for the innocence of that idea, which is that place of belonging and tribalism. And so I truly do believe that if we want to get the best out of our people, then they have to feel. So a lot of the education world will talk about psychological safety. They'll talk about trust. And I think those two things are the byproduct of love, right? So love isn't always a word that we will bring into the workplace because the world has made it about emotions and touchy-feely. Yeah. But I believe in a tougher form of love, which is about acceptance and it's about challenge and about accountability and service and sacrifice. And I think all these attributes are, if embodied as a leader, will create spaces and places where people feel safe, bring of the best of themselves. So I have in the past, I believe that we won't create a space of belonging if I can't bring all of myself to work, which is where I went with your thing.
Yeah, be authentic, be you. I'm not saying mask. I'm not saying different. But I'm saying, why do you need to bring everything to work? Whoever said that was the right way?
Yeah. And then the other bit that made me think about what you said is that, great, this is about authenticity, park that. And then the other bit is, okay, well, if one is my authentic self, what about my energetic self? And how often do people go to work, give of the best of themselves, and then the family get the rest of them? And I think that's kind of what your point made me think. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. It's just something I truly believe in. And I do think there's a danger that the boundaries are so blurred and the role of the employer is impossible to fulfill in certain contexts because it's just not congruent with healthy business. I got on in a debate with LinkedIn in a respectful way. I don't engage in those kind of mudslinging ones, where someone who had never run a company, who was all about joy. I remember it, personal about, but you have to have joy at work. And it was against an entrepreneur's post, which is also quite funny. And so I started to quiz them respectfully, just to go, well, what about profit though? Because you can't have joy without profit. And I've run a company, I've had people, I've had offices, I know the pressures of making sure all the dots line up so you can run a successful business, which of course you want a great culture. Of course you want people to be thriving, you hope. Not everyone does, but that's certainly what I would hope of leaders. But if you over-index on people first all the time, I just think you're at danger of being blindsided by some of the basic truths. That if you're not running an efficient company, you can't invest in all the rest of it. So it's that balancing act. They're both intrinsically linked. But if you're just focusing on, everyone should be joyful, it's like, well, let's be honest, work isn't always joyful. A company, no matter how successful, will go through evolutions of when they're riding high and then when their wave comes down, and it's always going to be cyclical. So that's also not terrible because people grow through difficulties, things have to evolve. And if you accept that as part of just, that's life, that life is tough for certain people and some, horribly more than others. we shouldn't be frightened of that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think this would be then the benefit of a team or a mosaic. Because when you realize that, well, this person brings joy, this person brings realism, this person brings analysis, this person brings collaboration and cohesion, you then start to reveal, like we would have in our tribal days, our value by contribution.
Yeah. And the value of difference.
Yes.
I think I fear at the moment, just from an observer, from a society point of view, is you're not allowed a different point of view anymore.
Right.
If you're different, you're the enemy. Yes. There's no grade, there's no debate, there's no respect in wanting to learn what makes someone different. It seems it's more like, well, if you're different, you're not right. It's like, well, we lost patience and tolerance and.
Well, I think this is the sickness of a culture that leads with pride. We're so prideful in our opinions, our perspectives, our appearances, and because we've worked so hard to get that right, the society has a huge platform for pride. It's almost like the elevated beyond the higher levels of consciousness. Pride is almost where people cap out as if to say, great, we've made it. You're almost socially celebrated, but that's a protective energy. Because the presence of pride is conditional based on how I look, how I feel, how I act, what I have, and I guess maybe why we don't have good debates is because if I'm relying on pride and it is debated, well, I need to protect my feeling of feeling proud of myself.
Only if that's how you're believing is the right way to behave, and that's what's celebrated. Because what is celebrated seems to be anger and hatred.
Wow, yeah.
That gets attention. That gets all the. I went to a great event run by the ABTY around talent diversity, and they purposely put up two different sides of the coin to debate if the advertising industry had lost its mojo to the younger generations.
Right.
And do you know what, Ryan? It was so refreshing to listen to a really well-run professional debate with humor. So both of them went at each other very forcefully with their opposite opinions, but with such respect and good humor, and the audience did swing based on how, and it was just amazing to see a proper debate. And I thought, God, we don't, without mudslinging or without anger or fear, because fear is a big driver, sadly, at work for many people and in debates and conversation. It was just so refreshing. I thought, God, more of this, please. And I think debating as a leader, there's a blend, isn't there, between debating and decision making. Because a leader's got to by nature be decisive.
100%. Yeah. And I look at people like Russell Brand, when you talk about the word humor, he is very funny, but he also has a very important message for humanity. And the way I see him is like a Trojan horse. Like his humor gets him through the gates, and then he can deploy the kind of serious nature. And I think one of the things that I, having seen him speak live, is that humor is something that is great in unifying people, because it takes he talks about how we were all outside COVID playing Twister on these little steps because we're almost 2 meters apart, and he's taken a common perspective and brought someone united around the humor of that. And I think humor is really important, but it's really interesting when we go into our workplaces where we fear saying or doing the wrong thing, like just putting your foot in it, getting the wrong perspective. And I guess it just makes our workplaces more clinical and less human when we take those things out.
I agree. And that's because I think, again, people are very fearful of being cancelled.
Right.
As I said, there's not a lot of tolerance, I think, around mistake making and, saying the wrong thing. People are human. And you can, long as you deal with it respectfully, if and when you say the wrong thing, then you can learn. But if you're fearful to ever be real and be brave enough to say what you truly think, you're never going to learn that.
Yeah. When I talk about purpose, there's a few pathways to purpose that I like to help people through to realize why they do what they do. And those pathways for me are about passion, pain, and possibility.
Interesting.
So what is it that they're passionate about, and how do they love helping and serving others? What pain have they experienced, and how do they love using that to help other people overcome that? And what possibilities do they love creating for other people? I think if we can get clear on the answer to those three, we get somewhere closer to this sense of why we do what we do. And when it comes to leadership, particularly, you've taken on this career of the last 20 years or so when it comes to leadership development. Did you get into that pathway through a passion and a love for it? Was there pain in your leadership experience? Like, why is it this topic that you're devoting your life to?
Very, very good, quite profound question. I have to think for a second. Yeah, definitely there's passion and pain. I think the pain came from getting trapped early on in my career in fear. So I was working for a company where I was a kind of a star player. I'd been headhunted by all my competitors, which didn't know what I wanted to do, and didn't respect the company I worked for, but wasn't brave enough to make a change at that point. We're going back 20 plus years here. And I ended up in getting myself fired because I told the world and their wife how unhappy I was at work because I wasn't brave enough to make that change for myself, because I got paralyzed by indecision, and this decision became massive. Rather than just going, what's the worst that could happen? I got what I call stuck in stale safety. And I kind of knew what I was doing by telling everyone who'd listened to me that I was going to set up a rival company, which I had no intention of doing. I was bored, and they got fired, which was devastating, because then I thought, oh my God, I lost all my values and didn't behave in a way that was authentic to who I was. And the pain was off the scale. Shame as well, because this is back in the day when that was quite rare. Nowadays, I think it's a bit more normal just to mix and match what you do. Anyway, that led to me setting up a business in recruitment that I was really good at, and I became top in my game, but I never loved it because I never truly chose it. That away from energy. I've set up my recruitment company because I didn't know what else to do. And I was very good at it. It made me great money. I loved a lot of it, but it wasn't really my calling. And so I ran it for 7 years. My husband came and worked in it. We made a very good living. We had a great client base, growing the business, making lots of mistakes as a manager and a business owner, but learned from putting my money where my mouth was. And then when I had my first child 14 years ago, I just had this epiphany. I thought, do I want to run this company for the next 10 years? No. So I took a very, very difficult decision to stop the company. Even though tick success all over the place, and I'd given everything to it for 7 years. I just thought, I don't want this anymore. It's like a millstone around my neck. And the pain was killing something that I had grown and created, and it was very good at what it did. So there was no technical reason to stop it.
Did you have someone in your corner like you to help you figure this out, or did you have to kind of bumble around and figure it out yourself?
Yeah, not really. It was just, I think when I was at home one day with Hugo, who's my eldest, I just thought, it almost had, like I said, it was like an epiphany. So, I've been unhappy in this company for 2 years. I'm a hypocrite, because the company was all about, you have a right to be happy and effective at work, and we will help you be that.
The juxtaposition.
Oh my God. And so I was waking up at 3 a.m. every morning, and I just wasn't happy. Although I was successful in inverted commas. So the pain of stopping a company that I put everything into, and the mistake I made was that my ego and myself was so wrapped up with the brand. That was terribly painful. And having to say to everyone, I'm stopping the company, and they're like, why? So, we haven't, have you gone under, have you? And it's like, no, this is my decision. But obviously all the, people will always say what they want to believe. And
of course.
And I also didn't know what I wanted to do. So I had no plan. And so it made myself and my husband redundant with a 10-month-old baby. I had no maternity leave properly because I had to look after closing the company. I don't know how I didn't fall over looking back. So that was very painful, to make such a strong decision without any guarantee it would work. And then the journey since then has been working out, what the hell do I want to do? Going into... went into a partnership with someone who was completely wrong. And again, fear-based decision. Fear-based.
So you knew that in the moment? Did you have that instinct before doing it?
I had an instinct.
And you didn't,
and I hung around in it far too long because of fear, because I did not know what else to do. And then that inevitably broke, like it was destined to do. And then I thought, oh shit, I better work out what I'm going to do here. And I'm the primary breadwinner for our family. So I don't have that luxury of a lovely stable income whilst I sort my shit out. It's like, sort your shit out whilst making sure everything else is paid, which is incredibly stressful. So anyway,
holes in your bucket.
But my passion for serving people around leadership growth and the gifts that I have that make a difference, especially to that senior leadership world, I passionately believe are fundamental to have in this world. And I feel blessed and privileged to do the job that I do. And such was my determination to build something special, remarkable, impactful, purposeful, helpful, that I just did literally force myself through every stumbling. In fact, I did a few posts on LinkedIn recently about what I would have told my younger self, and also acknowledging some of the incredible success that the business has had this year specifically. So I also wanted to go, look, for anyone else who's struggling, or everyone else is at a lower, kind of not lower, but earlier stage of that journey, just know it will come good. But at times it's like it almost knocks you over. Just the difficulty of working out, what do I want to be? How do I want to frame it? Who do I want to serve? Have I got the, what it takes to do that? And working out your language, working out your differentiation, it's a big thing to undertake whilst no one's paying you. But my passion for creating successful, happy senior leaders is off the scale. And the reward I get from doing my job and bringing the gifts and insight that I specifically give to my client base, then that I know fundamentally is why I am here. Like, this is my job. I am, I've worked it out. I'm a high stakes leadership mentor. I equip senior leaders and teams with the emotional and practical toolkit to excel. That's what I do. But it took me years of working through to get to that fluency about, I think when you can talk about what you do in simple human words, that's when you've made that connection.
Well, interestingly, you say that that's one of the two questions that senior leaders fail to answer with any degree of clarity.
Because we don't often have to think about it to the depth of clarity that I think you do need to have your own North Star. And high performers can wing it.
Right. Yeah.
Tonight,
Matthew, I'm going to be.
Well, and also the challenging thing for high performers is they have a bloody lot of choice.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what direction do I go in? What do I commit to? What will make me happy? Which can sound like a first world problem, and it can be, but everything's relative. So what were your three? There was passion, pain,
possibility.
I believe that every leader has the possibility to grow, and that every leader is carrying stuff from life, because every human does. So I think the possibility of getting to another level of performance, but from an integrity-led, authentic, meaningful place, is always there.
Yeah, I think the residue of a leader that does that leaves everything better. Like, they'll get the best out of the situation, they'll get the best out of other people, and then hopefully those other people go off and have interactions with other people throughout the rest of the day. It's a ripple effect, and it's one of these ripples that maybe leaders will never get to see the totality of. That in one interaction, you might have an interaction with, let's just say she's a single mum, she's working full time, she's got many kids at home, and you have a compassionate conversation that enables a little bit of flexibility where she goes home better for those three children that you may never meet.
Or it's just,
or hey, yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm speaking like that way because I'm visualizing someone very specific, but yeah, but this is the thing that really kind of blows my mind, is that I think leadership is the master key to leaving people, teams, organizations, communities better. Because when I lead myself, I get the best out of myself in the situation. If I'm running on a program that is stress and anxiety and worry, I'm operating from my kind of chimp, right? I'm operating from my reactions, which is not naturally built for the benefit of as many people as possible. It's built for self-preservation. So I think, that's why I love leadership, is this possibility that we can just create these 1 degree of differences where who knows what, whatever miracles might happen along the way. But I guess we call it a miracle because we don't understand the how it happens, but I know that it's possible.
I really agree.
One of the so the other question that people really struggle to answer is, how are you feeling?
Oh, 100%. I ask my clients, how are you feeling? And then I go, how are you feeling really?
Because that first one is easy to go, yeah, fine.
Yeah, fine,
Yeah,
how are you?
yeah. That's about me. But why do you think people struggle to answer that?
I think because of the pace we live at.
Yeah.
Like, it's overwhelming. Modern world, all this technology is meant to help us. I'm not sure it does, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think pace makes it difficult to stay present. I think that a leader specifically is always tasked with looking after everybody else. I don't agree with Simon Sinek saying leaders should eat last.
Oh, go on.
I think that's bollocks.
Do you?
Totally. Because if you're not eating first, it's like the oxygen mask on the airplane.
Yeah.
Like, let's get real. If a leader's not looking after themselves brilliantly, how the hell can they do that for everybody else?
Yeah. Do you know, this is so funny. To pure accountability, I do believe leaders eat last. And I tell my son every time, like, we're feeding, like, your little sister, she's eating first. Why? Because leaders eat last.
No,
but I 100% agree with the sentimentality of what you're saying.
It's too easy. It's also a bit of a cop-out for people then to accept being below performance.
Sure.
Okay, well, I don't see my kids because I'm a leader. So I need to make sure my team do. I don't ever get to the gym because I'm a leader, and I've got so much to look after for everybody else. And that's when you ask the question, how are you feeling? They generally don't know because they're so focused outwardly on all their people. And what we cannot forget over the last 3 years is that emotional burden on leaders has been off the scale.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
Which no one got training for.
Yeah.
No one got time to go on a course to learn how to do it. At the same time, these leaders, if they were in a family situation, had to also navigate the family dynamic. And let's not go into homeschooling. Oh my God, what a nightmare.
Yeah, my eyes are twitching. Yeah.
Emotional burden with that one, Christ. So we're all in a deficit, actually.
Yeah.
That nobody is absolute. Well, I've been using an image of Bobby Ewing, again, for a certain demographic here, from Dallas, where there was a story about this character. My mum was a big fan, hence why I can remember it so well. That everyone was invested, the whole country was invested in this story behind Bobby Ewing. Yeah. And then I think the writers just thought, oh shit, we just don't know how to end it. Yeah. So Bobby woke up in a shower and it had all been a dream.
Yeah.
They're gone. But that's almost what I think is playing out now, is that COVID, did that really happen? Brexit, did that really happen? Like all these trauma points that have been hitting us relentlessly, war, oh my God, cost of living that's happening now, it's nuclear threats, all of this constant anxiety and horror that's going on, and just living in utter fear and uncertainty has a cost. But leaders are now expected to, well, that was them. Off you trot, get on with this, potential recession, not recession, Europe, not Europe. So that emotional burden on people has been never higher without any boost. So even more so, I think leaders should be eating first, because when COVID hit, when all of that horrible uncertainty, for some people, the worst stuff happened, leaders were the ones who carried the buck, especially leaders in HR and L&D, which are the unsung heroes, because then everybody went to them for answers of which there was no blueprint. On top of what was already a demanding job. And I just think, let's not forget that.
Yeah. I can't help but shake that image of the whole queue of people and the leaders are up there first to eat. So maybe it's not an in public, I'm going to eat first, but maybe it's something I do in private. I've often said it's not me or you, it's me before you. And what I mean by that is, in putting me first, I'm able to put you first when it matters. And I interviewed a wonderful lady called Dahlia Feldheim. She was the chief marketing officer of Always. She did the Like a Girl campaign. Real famous, prominent Like a Girl. And just in the conversation, she dropped this word, self-fullness. Not selfish, but self-fullness. And I think that word's kind of stuck with me, which is that as a leader, I lead myself to self-fullness, therefore I may serve from the overflow.
Oh, here's an interesting build on that. When I was doing all my neuro-linguistic programming training and coaching training, I worked with this great guy who I think sadly has passed away now, but He just said, well, everything is selfish. Everything. So you do something because you gets a benefit from it.
Yeah.
So I do my job because I love helping people, and that makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I'm doing it to make myself feel happy.
Yeah. Is there any truly altruistic behavior then? Yeah.
No, there isn't, because it's always serving some kind of need.
Yeah. So which is then so once we have awakening to that epiphany, we have to try and find, like, so I interviewed Matthew McConaughey. He said we have to find the bit where the I meets the we, which is that sweet spot in the middle where there's a win-win, right?
Yeah. It's interesting, because I think the way that employment, like younger generations, which I probably get crucified for saying all of this, but I just think there's a whole I focused, which is at detriment to the we.
Entitlement.
And that the pendulum has
Yes. Pendulum.
Pendulum, thank you. I was so strong with it.
The swingy thing.
Yeah, that one has swung so far to my needs. You have to take my talent and nurture me. You have to make sure you look after the fact I want flexible working.
It's borderline narcissism.
And it's like, well, hang on a minute. What about the way? And don't get me wrong, I think also it was too far the other way. Yeah. But I just think recognizing, when I do a talk I give on mastering the art of trust, I say a high performance team has to trust in the we. Yes. But to be a high performance leader, you have to trust in the I. You know, so I 100% agree with you. It's that, and Matthew, who wouldn't agree with Matthew? Let's be honest. But right. the I and the we is fundamental. But I think for too many people, then they haven't been taught the benefit of the we in the right way. Right. And also, if we marry that up with COVID and ways of working, and the fact there was no, back to my thing around tribalism, there was no cues and things to be following or also not doing, depending on how good your role models are, on the benefit of the we, because these people were just, of all ages, were just stuck at home. So they're going, oh my God, just me. So, and all the social media and all that kind of stuff is all about promoting the I, pretty much. So I do think there's a massive opportunities for leaders and businesses and cultures and communities to really get back to investing in the we. Yeah.
Because then you get to rest in that identity and contribute towards, something bigger than ourselves. And it gets us away from the individual ailments of ourselves. I think so many people end up becoming unwell because they're so focused on the I. It's like the association with who am I, and the energy just going inwards versus actually I've got nowhere for expression. I've got nowhere for creation and contribution.
But we're also not an individual being. If you strip it right back to, behavior, animalistic behavior, we are a tribe. We are tribes, whether they're large or small. So we're not designed as a human to be a solitary creature.
We're even born attached to somebody else.
True. Oh God.
Yeah. Well, the thing you just said there is, someone's the chap in your life said that it's all selfish. And one of the things that kind of really made me sit up in Dr. Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, right? On the very last page.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On the very last page, it says that for all the love we do not receive as children, we become adults that seek that in the world. And, when you put that around the selfish, a lot of our selfish motivations will become leading for love rather than from love. And this has probably been one of my greatest realizations about the kind of the role of leadership when it's flawed, when sometimes it gets a little bit toxic, is because for many people, they will use their status and their position to try and achieve the love with which they did not gain. And you've been around some of these executives at the very top. It says on your website, it's very lonely at the top. There's often at the top, there's very lack of support. What's your observation around what I've just said?
I think we're, again, in one of my talks, I say we all carry the child within in the adult we are.
Right.
We've all been imprinted in so many ways, positive and negatively, by our social conditioning, our parenting, our education, our formative relationships, and they leave an imprint. They really do. So with a lot of my clients, some of the work I do is all about stuff that happened in their formative years. Like there's some more experiential, emotional work that I do with people. And if you're seeking, that comes back to my towards and away from energy, though, because if you're seeking it for the wrong reasons, you're never going to get it, even if it's abundantly all around you, because part of your brain doesn't believe you're ever going to have it for whatever reason, not worth it or whatever. But if you believe that, that's all you will seek to have as a truth, because in a weird way, you get a kick out of that. See, I'm right. So once you realize what are these core beliefs that you're holding, are they working for or against you? Are they even accurate? Suddenly you've got something called choice. Because the subconscious brain is not something that we choose. It's happening automatically. And once I realized that, oh my God, my brain doesn't always work on my behalf, that's mental. That my brain is because the brain's primary function is to keep you alive. And therefore to conserve energy at all costs. So it will take the path least trodden. And take making change and changing beliefs and behaviors, even if they're not serving you, takes energy. Takes bravery, takes risk, which we are primarily programmed not to do.
Well, like you just said the word choice. The thing that scares people about choice is it comes with a responsibility. When they say ignorance is bliss, like that's what, that's probably what it alludes to, is because once I know better, I need to do better.
Well, I said to one client working together, very successful person who was really stuck in what they wanted next. And they said, I just don't know. I said, you do. Said, you're bloody bright. You're so successful. And I said, all you're doing is coming up with all the excuses and you're stuck in indecision. And it kind of was like, they're like that. And I'm like, well, you're just making excuses. Everything is an excuse.
Cut the shit.
Make the decision to change it and it will change.
I want to come back full circle to what we said at the very, very start, which is about the value of being honest and direct. Why do you think that having someone like yourself, honest, direct, doesn't, hold back, takes no prisoners, as it says on your website as well. What's the value of having someone like that in your corner when you're at the very top, high stakes environment?
Oh, I'm going to come out with the most corny cliche, but it works. So forgive me. I liken it to the elite athletic world. So Olympian athlete is only an Olympian athlete because of the right experts working with them on their talent. And if they didn't get access to that expertise and that dedication and that focus wholly on them, they would never be reaching the levels of performance that they are. Fact. To be at that level takes that kind, rightly or wrongly, takes a team of people around them. So I bring that dedicated expert senior support to work their talent well. It's not something that just happens organically. I joke around. I say, I can't bloody do for me what I do for my clients. It's so frustrating. I can help a client very quickly, very powerfully, really insightfully, like that.
Because you're not attached to it.
Because I cannot do it for myself. So that's why people need other people. Everyone needs it. I need it. We cannot see our blind spots. They're called blind spots for a reason. And everybody has them. And why should a senior person not want nor need expert help and support? You would never get Andy Murray going, I don't need a coach.
I'm quite happy to leave that potential on the table. I didn't want that anyway.
So do you know what? I just think it makes the world nicer when my clients have me in their corner, but as a team and as an individual. Often they'll just say to me, I just feel better now. And isn't that nice? And they also have profound, insightful moments, and we do some amazing work around efficiencies and growth and techniques. But sometimes that's not what's needed. They just want to have a chat about something that's bothering them and come away feeling better. And who wouldn't want that?
Right. 100%. And then this leads to their one degree of possibility that in all things might be different because of how that person leaves, either thinking and feeling differently. And so when you said the word earlier, which is imprint, which is all the things that have kind of happened in the past, the thing I love to inspire people is about getting to think, at the end of their days, they're reflecting on the legacy, the impact that they've had. And this for me is the word Heartprint. So I have a career in policing, did 12 years UK police service, and our detectives used to be trained on this idea of Lockhardt's exchange principle, this idea that every contact leaves a trace. And I was journeying, I was like, we need to teach our leaders the same topic, the same idea that every contact you have as a leader is going to leave a trace. You're going to leave people better, worse, positive, negative, happy. And sometimes that'll be conscious, sometimes that'll be unconscious. But I'd just love for you to kind of reflect on your career thus far and where you're headed. And what do you think your Heartprint will be?
that I cared and I did make a difference. As simple as that.
Yeah. That's powerful, isn't it? And I think that's powerful, but also practical, because if we can be kept accountable to those two things in this moment, am I demonstrating that I'm caring, and how do I know that I'm making a difference?
Yeah.
Where can people connect with you? How can they find out more about your incredible work and bring you in?
Thank you, Ryan. So my website, sallyhenderson.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn, Sally K. Henderson, and I'm not really on Twitter.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, I just find it too noisy, too shouty.
Same.
And it's very hard to filter it. So you can get in conversations, you're like, that's not helpful. And I think it raises your anxiety levels just bloody looking at it. Whereas LinkedIn, I think, it's professional, it's normally respectful. I've never had a non-respectful, but I don't seek that out either. So yeah, I'm very frequent on LinkedIn. I also have a newsletter I send out bi-monthly. I have a learning hub on my website where I give away as much content as I can for free. I have a YouTube, I forgot my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel where I give away, again, loads and loads of videos and content. I'm genuinely committed to helping as many people as I can. So through the website, through LinkedIn, through the newsletter, or good old fashioned email me, sally@sallyhenderson.co.uk. Get in touch.
Where you will care and make a difference, I am absolutely sure. Sally, really enjoyed our conversation. You and I could probably talk about leadership all day, but that would neither be good use of your time or mine. I'm grateful for all the stuff that you're putting out into the world, and I'd just be honoured if you'd leave a final thought for our good selves.
I think take the time to have these conversations, because what we're talking about matters. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but I'm feeling really energized and really up in myself from discussing things that I think are pivotal and massively important to the world. Yeah. So I encourage anyone listening to this, firstly, thank you for listening, but take the time to listen and to connect and to get in touch with your emotions and your heart.
Let's go. Have a great rest of your day. Sally, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Take care.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below, some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organization, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honor and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.